There was a time when nobody cared who ran a company. The CEO sat in a quiet office, wore a suit, attended meetings, a ghost to the public. 50 years ago, you could name the biggest corporations in the world, but you would struggle to know the people running them. The idea of a CEO being famous sounded absurd. Today, the CEOs of the biggest companies in the world are almost expected to perform. Why is that? When did this change happen? When did tech CEOs become cultural icons? Before the 1980s, the power belonged to the corporates. Industry rewarded scale, capital, and history. If you wanted to build something meaningful, you needed factories, supply chains, political relationships, and a huge amount of money. This means that the people on the top were always older and more corporate. A closed game only for those who've been playing for decades. Manufacturing, energy, automotive, banking. These industries were dominated by legacy players, and leadership slowly passed from one executive class to the other. The innovation happened inside the boardrooms, and the idea of a young founder changing these institutions was almost unthinkable. Not even almost, it was unthinkable. Until technology entered the picture. For the first time, a new industry emerged. Capital was not the primary advantage. It was speed, intelligence, ego. Seeing beyond what people thought was possible. Seeing a future that had to be forced into existence. Computers, software, then the internet. They all leveled the playing field. You didn't need a factory, you didn't need a lot of capital, you didn't need permission. All you needed was a vision and ruthless execution, and you could build a massive company. The very first time, young founders had the advantage. They were willing to experiment, fail, and move fast in ways established executives were not able to do. What had once been a disadvantage suddenly became massive leverage. This is the environment that gave birth to a new type of founder. This is where something strange started to happen. Something that completely flipped the narrative. The traditional CEOs started being replaced by young founders. T-shirts replaced suits, and well, distant, quiet executives started being replaced by founders who spoke publicly, shaped culture, and attached their identity to the product long before the product had proven itself. People weren't just watching companies anymore, they were watching people, the personalities behind the companies.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
Between 1975 and 1985, two young guys in a garage started Apple, and 19-year-old Bill Gates started Microsoft. Founders were tied to the product in the public's imaginations. Computers represented the future, and suddenly the people building that future became part of the cultural story. By the early 1990s, business magazines like Forbes, Fortune, and Wired started putting founders on the covers instead of companies. Jobs built Apple around his personality. Gates became the richest man in the world. The dot-com boom created a wave of founders. Tech founders that became celebrities overnight. They felt unpredictable, intense, strange, and compelling. And soon that intrigue turned into obsession. The world had never seen CEOs behave like this. The world didn't become obsessed with these founders on accident. Obsession is not random, it's calculated, manifested in 3 psychological principles. Before this era, CEOs spoke softly, avoided big statements, and they stayed predictable. Then founders like Jobs, Gates, Bezos, Zuckerberg arrived and they broke every single rule. Every company has a vision, but that alone means nothing because most of them sound like this. We want to serve our customers. We want to grow. That's just a vision for the sake of having a vision. Safe, predictable, and very forgettable. The difference with the founders like Jobs, Gates, Zuckerberg, and Bezos is that their vision was anything but safe, anything but forgettable. They were extreme. Jobs wanted to change how humans interact with technology. Bezos had a vision for commerce, being able to buy anything and it arriving the next day. Gates wanted to put a computer on every single desk. Zuckerberg wanted to connect every single human together. Visions so grand the public couldn't help but take a side. People didn't know if they were watching arrogance or just genius.
Young, geeky computer programmer. Is he old enough to be running a company some people say is the biggest thing since Google?
Steve, let me ask you about the iPhone.
$500 fully subsidized with a plan? I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world, and it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard.
How do you compete with that, though? He sucked out a lot of the spotlight.
And that's why people paid attention, because when a vision is so bold, the public only sees 2 outcomes. You fail hard or you win big, and there's no middle. People followed because they wanted to witness the outcome. They didn't necessarily care too much about the product. They didn't care about the revenue. This is what made these founders magnetic and impossible to ignore. Their vision forced the world to pick a side. And once people picked a side, the obsession begins. Access kills mystery, which kills obsession. The more available someone is, the smaller they feel. Every founder people obsessed over understood this. They were visible, but never really reachable. Jobs disappeared for months at a time, and when returning to the stage, owned the room. Bezos stayed outside of the spotlight, and Amazon quietly consumed entire industries. They didn't flood the world with their daily force. They didn't overshare anything. And that distance made their appearances seem like a spectacle, that they were about to announce something big. The less people knew, the more they projected, the more they imagined. This is why celebrities feel larger than life, and why the founders who stay slightly out of reach feel a lot more powerful than the ones that are always present. The founders who became iconic mastered the balance between both. They gave the world just enough to stay fascinated, but never enough to feel familiar. And familiarity is the enemy of obsession. Nobody obsesses over what's predictable. They obsess over what feels controlled, but slightly dangerous. Every iconic founder has a contrast in their behavior. Jobs could be quiet in a moment, then ruthless and explosive the next. Bezos could laugh nervously in interviews while building a machine that could erase entire industries. Gates could look socially awkward, yet spoke about global domination. That contrast confused people in the best way possible, because a human brain locks in to what they can't really categorize. Are they calm or intense? Visionary or unstable? Genius or reckless? When somebody is fully predictable, your brain just gets bored. And when someone operates with contrast, your brain is alert. You start watching closer and listening harder. Iconic founders always feel like they're holding something back, like you never really know what's coming next. And that uncertainty creates tension. Tension creates attention. Tension over time becomes obsession. If obsession can be engineered, then the real question is, how do you engineer it for yourself? Well, it's actually easier than ever. You don't need $1 billion company, the media chasing you, or revolutionary product. You need a narrative and content. Founders are competing on perception, and the ones that really win big, the founders I've worked with, they certainly don't hide in a quiet office. They build a movement people can get behind and obsess over. Build massive visions that feel larger than life. Their characters feel like an enigma to follow. And it doesn't come from posting more on every single platform. It comes from deciding what moments to show. When you show that you're winning. When do you show when you're losing? What never makes it online at all. It's selectively showing failures and successes to build credibility, but hide the ones that weaken perception. It's choosing when to disappear and when to return. This is how perception is built on purpose.